So I've come to the end of my research section for my FMP, and I've carried out a range of different primary and secondary research tasks, and I feel like it's helped me to prepare for the production stage. But I definitely spent way too long on this research stage. I feel like I hit a block where I really struggled to get motivated to figure out what I wanted to do with this project, and I got stuck with what research tasks I wanted to do as well. And but I eventually figured it out, which was good, and I feel like I've gained some understanding of the genre and why it is that people seek out horror fiction and why it's so popular, and also it's given me some inspiration for what I'd like to do for my film and how that's going to work out. So the first piece of research I did was I made a questionnaire using Google Forms, and I sent that out to start with, I sent it out via Instagram and Snapchat, and the group chat for college. But I didn't receive as many responses as I was hoping for, because I was aiming for around 30 responses. And I think by then I'd only received maybe 14, 15. So I looked into posting on this forum page called the Student Room, and there was a specific part on the forum where you could post for student surveys. So it's like you'd ask someone to do your survey, and some people would just do it for you, or they'd say, if you do mine, then I'll do yours, in which I did. And luckily I was able to reach my goal of 30 responses, as well as sending it out to friends and family, which was helpful. And yeah, the data I collected was interesting. Some of it surprised me, some of it I was expecting, and it's definitely influenced my ideas for my projects, and also backed up some of the ideas I had and made me believe that I'm taking this in the right direction. For example, one of the questions I asked was, I gave a list of 3 scenarios of what people would find the scariest or the most daunting, and one of which was the scenario that I was hoping to go with. And yeah, luckily that one received the most votes, which I was glad. The general consensus I got from my results was that people tend to find realistic threats more scary than fictional threats. So like watching someone being stalked or followed home, or some manic human who's attacking another person, compared to ghosts and ghouls, which are scary, but you still know that it's, unless you believe in ghosts and ghouls and things like that it's not going to happen to you most likely. Rather, with something that's like being stalked that could actually happen to you, to anyone, there's that extra element of fear added to it, which I believe in. I feel like my results back that up. So once I gained my results for my questionnaire, I decided to create an infographic using Pictochart, which was quite fun to put together. And I would have liked to have made a video infographic as well using After Effects, but as I was already behind on schedule, and I am really not good at using After Effects at all, so I knew that would take up another bunch of my time, so I'd sadly decided not to do that. So yeah, in reflection, if I was to do this again, I would want to create something with After Effects to challenge myself. So yeah. Next, I decided to interview my friend Ben, which I think went pretty well. I came up with a bunch of questions that I wanted to ask him beforehand, and I didn't let him know because I wanted to put him on the spot so I could get some genuine responses. And yeah, it was interesting to hear what he had to say, and I liked his ideas that he gave me at the end, like for using the missing people posters, which I'm hoping to create to use in my film. And afterwards, I felt like even though I was happy with the results from Ben's interview, and not results from what he had to say, I felt like it would be useful to have another person's point of view, which was my older sister. So I decided to interview her quite last minute. So she's very busy with her own uni work, so I just had to interview her as she was doing work. So the audio might not be as great because you could hear her flicking through pages and of her own work and drawing. But I think again it's useful, and she gave me some good ideas as well. Playing on the whole idea of how people, especially women, sometimes are scared to walk home alone because they feel, well, from her experience, she feels vulnerable that someone might target or attack her. So she suggested I play on that to scare the audience, which I think is a good idea, and I'm going to try and use that as well in my short film. I watched an interview on YouTube by, I hope I pronounced this right, Dr. Margie Kerr, who's a fear specialist, and she spoke about why people enjoy watching horror films or doing thrilling activities that scare them. And she spoke about the science behind that, which I felt like helped me again to further understand why it is, like why do I enjoy watching these films, and why do so many people enjoy watching these and putting themselves through these scary experiences, I guess. So yeah, I liked watching it, and I took little notes on my phone and in my notebook to add in and profiled it on my website. And so yeah, as I've learned, it's good to gather research from a range of different sources, not just all online. I decided to gather some book quotes. So I rented some books from the library in college, and I flicked through and tried to find something appropriate to the project that I'm working on. And I managed to find some good quotes, which I profiled on my Wix site. And again, they've given me or inspired me to make this film, especially when I was lacking motivation and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I found reading, especially the interview pages in one of the books that I used quotes from filmmakers that have made it big, and they're talking about giving guidance to people that are starting out and the tips of making short films and horror films. As another form of secondary research, I decided to look for some online articles based on the genre of my short film, which is psychological horror, and I wanted to gain some new ideas for my short film, whether that's plot or the directing style or anything like that. And I found some useful tips, like using a twist at the end of your short film to keep the audience engaged and to surprise them. By reading these articles online and finding these quotes, this has actually inspired me to change my plot from originally being heavily supernatural focused to more of a realistic physical threat, and this is on top of my questionnaire results that suggested this, and I feel like this pushed me over to the using a realistic threat, as I found these quotes that were saying about how audiences can relate more with a threat that they actually could encounter in real life. Probably my favourite task from this research was analysing a scene from a horror film that's my favourite horror film called Hereditary, featuring Toni Collette. I've mentioned it a lot in this project because it's inspired me to go into filmmaking, really, and I really enjoyed it, and it really surprised me and just kept me hooked till the very last second of the film. So I chose the ending scene, which isn't great for people that haven't seen the film, so spoilers. But yeah, I analysed the scene shot by shot. I rewatched it a couple of times, like maybe 3 or 4 times, and took notes. And I would pause it each time to see the different camera angles, the scare techniques that were being used. And there was one technique that I particularly liked that stood out. Was I had to look up what the technique was, and it was a rack shot where the focus of the camera changed from one character to another once the character at the front of the camera had noticed. So when one of the characters first walked into the room, there was a character hidden in the background and they hadn't noticed them. So this other character walks in, and then just as they go to turn their head, the focus changes from the first character to the back character, and that's called a rack shot apparently. And yeah, I really like the idea of using that in my film. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, so I'm going to have to research into how I can pull that off. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing that task, and I feel like it's inspired me more to make this short film. Finally, I carried out some experimentation using animation this time on After Effects. I find using After Effects really difficult, to be honest. I still haven't got my head around it, but with help from Ian, one of my college tutors, he helped me to try and understand 3D compositions and using the 3D camera feature, and I tried my best with this animation. It probably could have been better if I'm honest, but again, I'm under a time schedule and I was trying to make sure I'm not spending too much time on research when I need to get into production after Easter. So yeah, and I don't think it was awful, the animation, but what I would have really liked it if the text had gone behind the moon, and also if the moon had been spinning with the text. And the moon originally was spinning with the text, and for some reason something happened and it didn't work anymore. But yeah, I gave it a try, and it's helped me to understand After Effects just a little bit more, and made me a little bit more comfortable with it. But I'm definitely going to need to try and experiment with it more before I can truthfully say that I'm confident with After Effects. Okay, well, thanks for listening. This was just a quick vlog to reflect on the research section as a whole, and I'm hoping that for production I'm gonna try and stay motivated, stay on my time schedule, and make a good short film.